Briefly, the office that these gentlemen are running for is for the Ferndale mayor position. The mayor exercises the responsibilities as outlined by law for the mayor-council plan of government. This includes exercising general supervision over the administrative affairs of the city, the responsibility for the appointment and removal of personnel, and the execution of the laws and policies as adopted by the City Council. The mayor's term of office is 4 years with an annual salary of $19,728. We will follow specific rules during this part of the forum, and the rules of the debate have already been shared with the candidates. They will have up to 2 minutes each for an opening statement. They will have 1 minute to respond to each question that I ask, and they will make a 1-minute closing statement. Each candidate has a challenge card. Candidates, could you wave your challenge card so we know what it looks like in the audience? Yes, thank you. Each candidate may use the card to challenge or rebut an opponent's response. The challenging candidate will then have 45 seconds to state his challenge, and his opponent will have 45 seconds to respond. Each candidate may only use their card one time, and when you challenge, it's to one other individual. We have timers sitting here in front. League members Carol Como and Judy Hopkinson will be tracking the time for us tonight. The timers will flash a yellow sign when 15 seconds remain, and a red sign when to say time is up. And if the candidate continues, a bell will be rung, and that means stop talking right now. I ask that the candidates be respectful of the time allotted so that we will be able to cover as many questions during our time. An important goal of the League is civil discussion, and to that end, we ask that those of you in the audience be respectful and refrain from comments during the debate. As well, please hold your applause until the conclusion of the debate. Some questions have been prepared by the League of Women Voters Candidate Committee, and we encourage members of the audience to provide your written questions. Remember that your questions should be something that each individual will respond to, not just a question to one person. Ushers will be available to pick up your questions and bring them to the screeners. Ushers, would you wave your hand so we know where you are? Thank you. And members of the audience, if you need a card, you can do the same to get the attention of one of our ushers. The questions are being screened by League members Heather McKay Brown and Michael J. over on my right, and they will be screening for legibility and clarity and also to avoid duplication. So each candidate will be asked to respond to the same question during the debate portion of our program, and the order with respect to the questions and the answers has been determined in advance by our organizers to ensure that it's a random and fair sequence. Candidate Heavenor will go first with the opening statement, and I will alternate which candidate speaks first after that. So, with the rules covered, let's get started. Timers, are you ready? We have 2 minutes for your opening statement. Candidate Heavenor, please begin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'll probably close this mic here. My name is Daniel Heavenor. I've recently moved to Ferndale in about 2013, and been in and out and studied there for a little over a year now. My trade is I worked as a commercial fisherman in Bristol Bay, Ketchikan, fish down Santa Cruz, California. I've lived in Australia. I've worked in a lot of places, Papua New Guinea. What I did there is I've worked for pretty much the major oil companies as a safety advisor and consultant. My main field in the consulting would be behavioral safety. Basically what that is I go out in the field and I change the culture from if they have a blame culture going on or a dependent culture. what I do is I go in there and I work with the managers, project managers, the supervisors, and the people in the field, and I take their data and everything, and I plug it into a computer, and I look at what our shortfalls are and how we're going to build a roadmap and how we're going to get to the right culture. What's that culture mean? It means safety. It keeps people safer, prevents injuries, and a lot of people think safety costs a lot of money. Well, yeah, it does. But on the other hand, when people start losing loved ones and they get the news home that they've lost their son or father or somebody at the work site, that's my commitment, and that's what I'd like to do for this job here as mayor.
Thank you. Candidate Muchler?
Oh, was that a mistake? Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry, were you finished? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm coming from. That's what I want to do. I want to look at the culture and if there's any problems with it, get her straight. Yeah. And by the way, I have nothing bad to say about Ferndale. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. It's a nice little place to live. So, stop.
Thank you. Candidate Muchler, your opening statement.
I'm John Muchler, the mayor of a healthy and thriving Ferndale. We're creating good jobs, businesses are locating here and expanding. We're gaining new neighbors and friends as people discover what we already know. Ferndale is a great place to live. We're one of the safest cities in Washington State. Crime rates are plummeting to 1/3 of what they were just 12 years ago, according to FBI statistics. Under this administration, we have done a number of things to build community, save the citizens money, and inspire a record amount of citizen engagement and participation, especially among our young people. We've worked with our legislators to add beautiful ADA stamped sidewalks to Pioneer Park, making this iconic destination accessible to all. We work with the state to gain $22 million to build the Thornton to I-5 connection, providing another way in and out of Ferndale and alleviating traffic citywide. We helped to bring Unity Care Northwest to Ferndale. We await final permitting to use our new aquifer, which will help secure our city's water future for decades. And no county city is doing more to address affordable housing than Ferndale. I've restructured city staff to maximize the potential and productivity of those working for you, employing lean and saving the city tens of thousands of dollars a year. We created a new department, a Parks and Recreation office that now organizes a record number of great activities and events at low cost and enjoyed by thousands. We built Star Park together. Finally, we honored two of our own World War II POW survivor heroes, Joe Mosier and Dick Stone, by naming 2 streets for them. And I note that we just lost Dick, age 95, on Saturday. So thank you. I am Mayor John Muchler, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you. Candidate Olson, your opening statement.
My name is Keith Olson. I'm a retired career supervisory law enforcement agent of 25 years that have supervised a station of 89 agents and a multi-million-dollar budget. I have the experience to oversee our city's operations and guide our professionals who do the actual work of city operations. I've been a council member for almost 12 years now. The first term was a group of dedicated citizens who ran opposing the taxpayer-funded giveaways to developers. Enough of us were elected to stop that agenda. 2 years into that term, we elected a new mayor who was part of the change, who ceased the developers' projects getting taxpayer incentives. The second year was great. A lot of good work, a lot of change was instituted, and that mayor was elected to a second term. My third term has been anything but fun. Being in the minority of no votes on taxpayer-funded giveaways is not fun. We need council members who are not real estate or developers determined to make money from political decisions, and if we don't get citizens like that to stand up and run, we're destined to continue with giving away property tax revenues to rich developers. That's why I've decided to run for mayor and change the course of City Hall. The elderly who live on Social Security and fixed incomes are being priced right out of their homes, with the incessant tax increases needed to fund these property tax giveaways. I too live on a fixed income, and I've had a steady record of voting no on tax increases or put them out for a vote of the citizens if legally possible. If I'm lucky enough for the citizens of Ferndale to represent them as mayor, I will continue to do my very best as I have for the past 12 years of keeping tax increases at none and city services as affordable as I can. We have a big issue coming forward, water treatment plant, and this is all necessitated by the rapid, unchecked growth of homes and apartments. Again, history repeats itself, and growth will need to pay for the new water system that growth has necessitated. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Pinkley, your opening statement.
Thank you. I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters and Whatcom Community College for, to reiterate, I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters and the Whatcom Community College for putting on this nice event. It's always impressive. I've been involved in a few. My name's Robert Pinkley. I'm running for mayor of Ferndale. I have been a business owner for about 15 plus years. I have grown to love the community. I know a lot of people. In full disclosure, I have a business, and one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor is because I'm really trying to focus on the revitalization of Ferndale and the old part of Ferndale. In particular, I think there's a lot of new growth. There's, of course, Cherry Point, and there's all the infrastructure on the freeway and issues with the jail, but there still is the old core of Ferndale, and that includes the residents and the small business owners. And I think that they have been sort of given the shaft. I think that the government has been sort of removed and in some ways separated from the people itself. And I think that that is critical for a town. There's a lot of other examples in Western Washington and right even here in Whatcom County of towns that have been revitalized, that have grown, and they did so in an organic fashion. They did so with people that have lived there and done it not necessarily with lots of tax credits, not necessarily with lots of institutional investors, but they did it on their own volition, and it's been impressive. I think we look to the east, the northeast, in Linden, and it's almost painful that they have experienced, it's not painful for them, and I love Linden, but I'd like to see Ferndale have that same kind of revitalization and not be left behind during these good economic times. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hanson.
Good evening. My name is Greg Hansen, and I am running to be the next mayor of Ferndale. I love Ferndale. I've lived here for almost 50 years. And 4 years ago, I ran for Ferndale City Council because I feel like government can be a force for good in people's lives. I've spent the last 4 years learning about the city of Ferndale and the people who are a major part of this city. Ferndale is filled with hardworking, caring, Ferndale-friendly individuals. This is a great community, but Ferndale is kind of at a cornerstone. And there are a lot of projects that are underway that are going to change Ferndale forever. And today, more than ever, Ferndale deserves a choice in mayor. Ferndale deserves a mayor who is authentic, who is humble, and who is collaborative. Somebody who wants to work with everybody in our city. We need a Ferndale. I want to get past the petty politics of everyday politics in Ferndale, and I want to look towards Ferndale's future. I want to see a Ferndale that embraces growth, but growth that actually brings everybody into the fold, where the growth that includes affordable housing. I want to see a vibrant downtown, a downtown where there are cities, or where there are restaurants and there are shops and there are businesses. There are reasons for people to go downtown, reasons for people to spend time and spend their money downtown. And finally, I want a Ferndale that works for everybody. I want a Ferndale that respects its diversity. And when we consider and respect the diversity of ideas, identities, and opinions, we make decisions that benefit everybody. Vote for Greg Hansen, Ferndale Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Now, the first question for you candidates, and candidate Muchler, you will give the first response to this, please. Ferndale is one of the fastest growing cities north of Everett. Can you identify 2 or 3 benefits and 2 or 3 challenges to that growth?
The challenges, of course, are our infrastructure. Everything that we have eventually wears out or is undersized for its usage. We are currently prepared to bring online a new well, a new deep water well, a new aquifer that's going to help serve our city for decades. That's addressing one of the components of growth. The city is also needing to replace an antiquated wastewater treatment plant. That will begin next year. The city also is experiencing growth in the school district, and its high school is outdated. And so the citizens have come together, and 3/4 of the city citizens have voted for a new high school. Those are things that we're addressing for a future growth of our city. The benefits of the city growing is that it brings in more services. We recently saw Unity Care Northwest open up. That is in part because of our growth. And we're seeing new businesses come to town, new services, new restaurants, and those are some of the many benefits of growth to our city.
Thank you. Candidate Olson, your response?
Can I hear the question again?
Sure. Ferndale is one of the fastest growing cities north of Everett. Can you identify 2 or 3 benefits and 2 or 3 challenges from that growth that has been created in Ferndale?
The benefits I don't really see. We have a water supply that we've already put out as being limited in May, and we're building and building and building. Pretty soon we're going to be putting out our water rationing in February because we don't have sufficient water. We have a well that we're trying to complete, but yet we don't have how we're going to pay for all this well. And I would disagree an antiquated wastewater facility. It's reached its capacity, which I believe was 92%, at which the state mandates we have to get a new one. At that point, we're exceeding the amount of people that we have that can service it, and that's what's causing us to have a new one.
Thank you. Candidate Pinkley, your response?
Finding the benefit or finding the balance between strong economic growth, people moving in, net migration, and balancing that with the costs are always the number one aim of, or the number one administrative goal for a city or a municipality. I think that the growth has been impressive. I think the number of houses is good in a lot of ways. There's more tax revenue, there's more vibrancy. However, a lot of that has come at the behest of our infrastructure, which I hear all the time from developers is undersized. Developers have to pay a lot of times for that. There's always this tug of war. We'd like to see more growth. We'd like to see more vibrancy. We all want that. At the same time, it has to be managed responsibly and it has to be shared.
Thank you. Candidate Hansen, your response?
Well, I think that Ferndale is actually fairly well positioned for growth. I mean, we've been growing at about the same rate for the last 30 years. And, I think, we all know that the amazing growth of Ferndale has created a lot of traffic issues. I mean, anybody who drives through downtown understands that. And of course, the growth has also brought the need to expand our water and wastewater treatment plant infrastructure. But I think that the benefits certainly outweigh the costs. Growth brings diversity, growth brings businesses to the downtown, it brings more opportunity for more Ferndale citizens, and eventually that growth is going to create a vitality downtown, the vitality that a lot of people who've lived in for a long time in Ferndale have really wanted to see.
Thank you. Candidate Havenor?
Yeah, some of the benefits I see is well, you can never hear me. Some of the benefits I see is new money coming into a community. You also have new ideas. You have a lot of young people out there that want to start new businesses. I think we should help them to get that as a council. Now, I lived in Australia for a number of years. I owned 3 houses down there. The only water I had on there was rain tanks. I caught my rainwater. This is in a continent that is one of the driest in the world. And we should establish that, any new construction, and facilitate people and teach them, put those systems in the rainwater to catch that rainwater. What that does is It stops the rain from, as more roofs go up, it starts to saturate the land. If we can start to capture that, then we can capture that and prevent it from flooding in rivers. But down the road, that's the system we should go to. There's no reason we should be flushing toilets with potable water.
Okay, thank you. The next question, candidate Olson will be asked to respond first. This is a question concerning water resources. Could you please outline the upcoming changes to the city's water treatment plant and what role the mayor and the city council will play? How will you address this challenge of maintaining good quality water? Candidate Olson.
I think I've outlined in a flyer that I just had mailed out yesterday. The first thing I would do if I was elected mayor was to bring the community together to discuss and present the whole problem of what we have with this water treatment plant and how to pay for it. There's lots of different ideas out there, but I think everybody's going to have to be able to buy into it, and we should be able to put as much money as we can towards it that isn't from city revenues, because we paid off the plant before, and we really haven't used that money that we're using to make the payments to be put into another fund to help fund this, because it's not getting correctly added.
Candidate Pinkley, your response?
The water issue has been the big one. In the building that I have, all the hot water heaters have been replaced because of some of the calcium buildups. At the restaurant, they always ask, do you want Pellegrino or do you want Ferndale's Finest? I'm enjoying the Bellingham water here. It's a lot different. I mean, it's frustrating what they've spent on the water, what's happened, and now to have to go back and do it again is very maddening. I mean, the numbers are crazy. Our bills have gone up. It seems like every month it's about $1,000 just for water, and almost twice as much for sewer, a commensurate amount. That's kind of an example, I think, that a lot of Ferndale residents are frustrated at, that things that just haven't been done properly, they haven't been done administratively the way they should be.
Thank you. Candidate Hansen, your response?
So I think, one of the biggest things is that even in a state where the water falls from the sky, seeming like every single day, water is still a precious resource. It costs a lot of money to pull that back out of the ground, treat it, and put it into your home. And I think that we need to always be mindful of that this is a precious resource. But at the same time, in anticipation of growth, the city has made the investment to drill new wells, has tapped into a deep aquifer that, as far as we know, nobody else is using, and the hope is that this new water source could be a source of water for Ferndale's growth for another generation. Look, I grew up in Ferndale drinking Ferndale water. I love the taste. I got used to it. I look at water almost like wine, right? It's a function of the earth from which it comes. And so I get that some people may not enjoy the taste, but I think that that's something that's acquired.
Okay, time's up. Candidate Havenor, your response?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, as I said earlier, I live in a country that collected rainwater as their main source. Hey, it's better for your hair, it's drinking water, you flush it. You can take the gray water and pump it out to your lawns and your gardens. When you start drilling wells, I also worked in a coal mine, a coal seam gas project. Once you start extracting a lot of water out of the ground, you start to do things to the aquifers. Some wells are starting to go dry. I do believe some wells are going dry right now. It costs a lot of money to lift that water up there. If everybody starts putting in rainwater tanks, and it's done in the country, and it can happen here, it's a part of the future. Put rainwater tanks. And as a council, as a mayor, I'd help facilitate that process, people with the right equipment, so that people aren't wasting money and do it right the first time. So.
Thank you. Candidate Muchler?
I brought my two youngest children tonight, Nicholas and Annalise. Diane and I have 7 kids, and the most dreadful 2 days of the month for me is the day I get my water bill, and the next day when I hear about the rest of the city's water bills. We get it. But the city has made a determined effort to be water independent. We used to be in the PUD, we used to be beholden to their prices, and so we decided to drill a well 2 years ago. We wanted to find the depth of the current aquifer, which is at about 100 feet. Once we got there, we were trying to determine whether we were reaching its fullest potential. We were. So we kept drilling, and all the signs kept telling us just keep drilling, keep drilling. We got to 1,037 feet, hitting an old riverbed, and we hit water, and we had good supply. And we're currently simply waiting for the Department of Health and the Department of Ecology to okay us to build the wellhead and bring it online.
Okay, thank you. Time is up. Okay, the next question says, what do you think the balance should be between single-family homes and multifamily apartment buildings in Ferndale? And what ideas do you have to make sure that Ferndale can continue to be an affordable place for housing? Candidate Pinkley.
I have an apartment building in downtown, small apartment building. There's inexpensive, affordable housing. There's very few of those in Ferndale. There have been some built recently, but the impetus to build the lion's share of the development that's occurred has been single-family homes, kind of up and away from the downtown core. The market forces have driven that. The tax revenue from that is not as significant as you would think it would be, because they get the city derives taxes from commercial buildings and commercial taxes or commercial expenses. Anyhow, I think that there can be rezoning, I think there could be incentives, and I think there could be a more vital downtown, which would make it in the interest of private developers to come in and build some of these multifamily buildings. But it has to happen at the core.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Hansen, your response?
Well, I think owning a home in the United States is kind of the American dream. It's an investment that most families want to make. It's an investment in their future. And I think that you know, Ferndale has done a pretty good job so far of you know, making changes to the zoning and creating opportunities for individuals to work towards that American dream. You know, Ferndale has been in the cutting edge of accessory dwelling units, so that you know, multi-generational families can stay in the same area. We've worked hard to build more opportunities for multifamily, but also mixed-use housing, so that there's an opportunity for everybody to make that investment in their future and come be a part of Ferndale's amazing community.
Thank you. Candidate Havenor?
Is it Havenor? Yeah, my view on that, Ferndale has done a pretty good job of that, but some of the things I'd like to see more jobs come to the area, more young people come in there, and not just have multi-units where people are full-time renters all their lives. I'd like to see younger people come into the area and actually start to acquire home ownership, so that they actually own it. I'd actually like to see your principal place of residency taxes go down. If you fix your place up really nice, well, somebody's going to come around and say, hey, you got to pay more money because your place is nice. But I'd like to see more ownership, and young people coming up actually own a place rather than become full-time renters all their lives. So that's the way I look at it, yeah. And if it becomes too expensive, that'll be hard to do for first-time home buyers. So that's it.
Thank you. Candidate Muchler, your response?
Diane and I rented, I think, at least 9 places before we had home ownership, and 5 of them were apartments. And I suspect that apartment rentals is part of the home life cycle of everybody. I am extremely pleased to see the growth of multifamily apartments in Ferndale. I'm also pleased, I was concerned when it occurred about crime, but crime continues to go down in Ferndale, and those apartments provide that first-time home to a lot of people. We're also seeing growth in homes, and we need to have a robust, strong stock of new homes and older homes as they go on the market. One of the great things that Ferndale does is the self-help homes. Ferndale's largest home builder are the Skagit Housing Authority and Self-Help Homes, having built about 10% of the entire home stock in Ferndale. And those homes get these families in at about $225,000, $250,000. Still a lot of money, but much more affordable than for a lot of people. So Ferndale is finding the right balance.
Thank you. Candidate Olson?
Homeownership is the American dream, but I just don't see it happening very often in Ferndale at the prices that there are. The majority of the council, of which I was not on, voted to make a development smaller lots, what have you, so they could get it in and have more homes and make it more feasible and more affordable. When they got it finished, I went down and looked at them. It has a view of the Ferndale baseball fields, and it's $680,000. That's not affordable. Everybody wants to have a home. They don't want to be relegated to living in apartments, of which we have a plethora of on Main Street. They're getting more and more, and now we've given away property tax for 9 years for those who want to build some more multifamily.
Okay, thank you. The next question, Candidate Hansen, I'd like you to start with it. And the question is, as mayor, if you are elected to this position, what skills will you bring to the job to ensure that all citizens are treated with equity and respect, and that their voices are heard?
I think, you know, the biggest skill that I bring is I'm an effective communicator. I'm an instructor here at Whatcom Community College. I've worked for years in the hospitality industry before that, and I think that I have the ability to bring together a diverse group of people with a diverse group of ideas, and to be able to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to share, you know, their voice and their concerns, and to be able to bring all of those together to create an outcome that actually benefits everybody. I'll leave it at that.
Candidate Havenor? Candidate Havenor?
Yeah. One of the things I can bring in there is since I've worked with so many different people and quite successfully is building teams, training supervisors, mentoring them, listening to them, building a communication process where I go out and I talk to all the people in the field, and that's where all the information's at. It's all on the lower end, and I can bring that to the top. If you don't have that right and you don't know your culture, you really can't manage it. That's how we operate is by culture. I have a background of auditing and also incident investigation, where if we have failures, I can look at that and then decide what the contributing factors are and discover the root cause and put the corrective actions in. So.
Candidate Muchler?
You need to show up. And I've been accessible and available to the citizens of Ferndale, not just my 4 years as mayor, but previous 6 years as a council member, and my 32 years as being a pastor of a local church. I show up, I'm available. I advertise on the internet, on Facebook, when I'm available, and people come down and talk to me. I also make decision by counsel. I rely upon the wisdom and counsel of other people, even people with whom I disagree. One example of many is the hiring of a new chief of police in Ferndale. I assembled a group of 25 people that liked me, people that didn't like me, people that voted for me, those that didn't. Those of a variety of backgrounds and skill sets. We assembled together to interview the 6 candidates that we had, listened to what they said, and made a final decision. Those are just some of the skills that I have brought historically and consistently in my practice and my service as Ferndale's mayor.
Candidate Olson, your response?
I've already gone on record with my flyer and saying that I want to have a community meeting and find out what's on people's minds. We used to do that regularly for 8 years under Mayor Jensen, and it worked remarkably well, I thought. Everybody that wanted to could come there and express what they had on their minds, and we wrote them all down, and tried to come up with solutions to them later on when we collated them, got the ones that were right, that were close together, and then figured it out. And we continued to do that, and then we got back to people with what we found out and what we had planned to do. And I think that would be another great plan to reinstitute under, like the previous mayor did.
And Candidate Pinkley?
When you want to succeed organizationally, when you really want to succeed, and not just make people feel good, but inspire them and motivate them and give them a piece of the action so they can see it, they can visualize it, they can be part of it, they can be rewarded for that. I've done that in many instances. I've done it in businesses in Washington State. I'm doing it currently at a business in Ferndale. I've done it internationally. I think there's something about people, they want to feel that they're part of something. They want to feel like they have some stake in it. They want to feel that they can be rewarded and they're not just a cog. They're not just part of this, just a number and just a digit. And that's the way a lot of people feel, unfortunately. So inspiring and getting people to do what you want them to do, getting them to do what they want to do, I think is the key.
Okay, thank you. This is the last question that we have time for. Candidate Havenor, I'd like you to respond first. There are an unprecedented number of candidates for all offices in Ferndale. To what do you attribute this increased interest in elected office?
Well, I'd have to say time for change. A lot of people who sit in an office for too long become complacent, and I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying in general that happens. Sometimes you need a new set of eyes that comes in there. Now, my eyes, I've been around the world quite a bit, and I've been in a lot of different places. I don't know anybody here anything. I believe in procedural justice. Everybody gets the same shake as everybody else. Like I said, I don't owe anybody here nothing. I mean, everybody's the same to me. So,
Candidate Muchler?
23 Ferndale citizens are running for public office. Typically, it's 6 or 8. I think it's fantastic. We haven't engaged in public like we've never had before. Part of it's outside our city control. We have a very activated public discourse on national politics. Right, left, and center, people are very engaged and involved. We've seen the advent of social media, and our city has literally led the way in terms of using social media to let our citizens know what's going on. So they're engaged, they understand, they participate. We've made sure that our government is available to our citizens. We've had a number of town hall meetings, and we will continue to do that. Live town hall meetings and online town hall meetings to hear from our citizens. We respond to them, they speak to us, and they are wonderfully engaged. I think that's one of the coolest things about this elections is to meet 23 people that want to plug into the government, and some of them won't go on past this August, but I hope they will continue to be plugged in and participate.
Thank you. Candidate Olson?
I think quite simply, I've never seen this many people engaged since I've been here since 1994. And when you get this many people engaged, it seems to be that they aren't happy with the ruling majority, of which I am not. And so they want to have a change, and you've got a bunch of different people with different ideas who are trying to bring about how to affect that change and get something passed that they like.
Thank you. Candidate Pinkley?
There is definitely a vibrancy that you can feel in Ferndale. I see familiar faces and friends in the audience. I hear it all the time. There's concerns, there's optimism, but there's also this feeling that, hey, what kind of town is this going to be? Is this going to be a town that I can be really proud of? You know, I've come back. I grew up in this town. My parents have lived here. Ferndale has gone through some ups and downs. There's no question about it, as a lot of American cities have. I think that it's unfortunate, and I think in a lot of ways it's been mismanaged, and I think in a lot of ways it's just been, it's been negatively perceived by people that want to have a different view. And I think that the people out there really, truly are engaged to the point where maybe they're going to be critical, but they want to be positive and a positive part of a better future and not miss this economic realm that we're in.
Thank you. Candidate Hansen?
Well, I think that a lot of people have decided to get involved in local politics for a whole bunch of personal reasons. I think my take on it is that first and foremost, the push for the bond for the new high school in Ferndale really gave a lot of people a taste for what it means to get involved in your local community in a political way. And I think that a lot of people have stepped up because of that. I think that there's growing concern amongst the general public about the direction of our national politics, and people feeling frustrated in that they need to do something, and the only place that they can really get involved is locally. I think that people are frustrated with the Ferndale government. I think that they like a lot of candidates here have said, there's a frustration that we're not being responsive to the community. And I think that there's, last year's issues around water have really activated a lot of people. A lot of frustration when, they feel like a necessary service is costing them way more than it should.
Thank you. Candidate Havener?
Oh, I thought we were in. I started, yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
can go again. But,
Okay. Everybody's answered that question? Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so now it is time for your closing statements. And Candidate Hansen, I'm going to ask you to go first with that. You have 1 minute for a closing statement.
Okay. So I think in Ferndale we're at a crossroads. These are consequential times for our city, and Ferndale voters deserve a choice in leadership. I'll be a leader that is authentic, engaged, humble, thoughtful, and collaborative. My background in hospitality management, my background in creating a customer-focused culture in an organization, and my background in educating young people to excel in the business world give me the tools and experiences necessary to be Ferndale's next great mayor.
Candidate Havener, your closing statement. Okay. Anyway, if I'm elected mayor, hey, I'll just work hard at it. Like I said, I'll make sure people have the opportunity for success, and hopefully we'll have the right counselors in position to help them get there. Hey, it's a great little town. I'm not going to knock anything about it. It's going through its growing pains, and you need to put the right person in charge there. There's 5 candidates up here that I'm sure can fill the job. As I said before, I've been around the world. I've seen a lot of different things. I'm a new set of eyes. I can bring in a lot of different training, auditing, and opportunities for improvement. I'd like to put it that way, just opportunities for improvement. That's what I'll bring to it. Yeah.
Thank you. Candidate Muchler, your closing statement.
Ferndale has 4 of the largest projects ever undertaken by our city coming up, and now more than ever, experienced and proven leadership is needed. A new well coming online soon, replacing an antiquated wastewater treatment plant, breaking ground shortly on the Thornton to I-5 connection so that Ferndale will have a new way in and out of town and a road that will benefit all. And constructing our new Ferndale High School, the largest project ever undertaken in our city. And I pledge to work with our school officials to say that it is built on time and on budget. My experience includes 1 term as Ferndale's mayor, 2 terms as a council member, an active member of the Ferndale Chamber of Commerce and the Whatcom Old Settlers Association, and a member of the Commission Against Domestic Violence. I'm humble and grateful that Ferndale citizens have entrusted me with the executive office of our city these last 4 years, and I ask that you trust me with 4 more years with your vote for John Muchler. And please visit my website, reelectjohn.com, J-O-N.
Thank you. Candidate Olson, your closing statement.
I have been graced with 3 different victories for council races, and I think people like what I've done as a council person. It's now time to move past that and get a new direction for the mayor and hopefully make this city so that people are happier again. With that, I've requested that you vote for me, Keith Olson, and I think I've probably heard enough tonight from what you guys have heard from us.
Thank you. Candidate Pinkley.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's really great to see so many people interested and engaged. Ferndale, this is their moment. This is the moment for them to take advantage, for us to take advantage of this great economy. And we have all the schools, and we have the refineries, we have the water projects, the Thornton Bridge. We have the public sphere is intact, and that's wonderful. That's great. In a certain regard, we need to focus and make sure that we are friendly to small businesses and big businesses. We need to be inclusive. We need to make sure that people can come in and feel that it's in their best interest to get a house and remodel it, build up a small business. The infrastructure is there, the economy is there. This is the time that Ferndale really needs to flourish, and it will with a new mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, all of these candidates. This concludes our debate for the Ferndale mayor position, and please join me now in thanking all of these candidates.